Welcome to Triangle BNI. Today's show is brought to you by Simply Done Concierge. All right, folks, we're early into October, which means the holidays are coming, which means you are going to start getting busy with family and friends coming to visit, shopping, decorating, all that good stuff. The team at Simply Done Concierge can help you be in two places at once. If you go to simplydoneconcierge.com, tell them what you're looking for. I know they'll be able to help you. Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Manning. Each week on Triangle BNI, we bring you a local small business success story. If you're not familiar with BNI, it is Business Networking International, the world's largest networking organization. Our little slice of heaven here in the Triangle is Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill and the surrounding towns. And each week we bring you a local small business success story. And sometimes we like venturing all the way to the eastern North Carolina coast, talking with our friends in the coastal region, mainly Wilmington. And the local small business success story this week is Abram Bryan with Heir Media. Abram is in the newly launched chapter as of last Wednesday. Brunswick Business Builders. They meet Wednesday mornings at 8:45 at Brunswick Beer and Cider. So if you live in the Wilmington area or Brunswick County or namely Leland and want to go visit that chapter on a Wednesday morning, meet some successful sales professionals and business owners in the area, please do. Abram, good morning and congratulations on the launch. How are you today?
Hey Mike, I'm good. Thanks for having me on the show today. Yeah, I'm super excited. If anybody is listening and they're like, I want my business to grow, definitely like visit us at Brunswick Beer and Cider at 8:45 a.m. every Wednesday.
Excellent. Now, Abram's company's name is Heir Media. That's Heir because it's a family business. And we're going to get into that in a second. But in Abram's chapter, he is the education coordinator, which each week means each week he brings a nugget or two about small business or BNI to his chapter. And I know you're looking forward to that. It'll be a lot of fun, especially to a new chapter. There's a lot to learn. I think we've overwhelmed everybody with a lot of stuff so far, right?
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
All right. So, Heir Media, right now, you are a creative consultant, writer, director, producer, and
Yes.
your company works on, you guys do filmmaking, you do animation, highlight reels, music, game development, all kinds of cool, neat gadgets. Glad it's young people doing that because old people like me, that's a lot. We're learning. All right, so let's talk about the family business first. Who started it and how did it get started?
So about 13 years ago in Maryland, it really started with my mother, my sister, and then my father. They were like, okay, we want to do this company. So back in Maryland, we went under a different name, HRM Incorporated, but then we decided to rebrand everything when we came down here to Wilmington. Um, and so a lot of that happened just because, like my sister, she went for electronic media and film at Towson University. And there she was trying to figure out, like, okay, what companies can I work with? Who can I work for? Because, everybody's saying, like, I don't really like to work for other people. So, how do we go about that to still make a successful business and still work with people that we can be constant collaborators with? And so they came up with, why not make our own company? And this way, our parents are also like, now they kind of help build onto the legacy of what our family is all about. And so that's the very beginning basis for the company. I didn't end up joining until a little bit later because I was doing some things here and there, but then there was a lot of growing up I had to do. And before they would even allow me to like work on the company, because they didn't want it to be a family company where I was forced to do it. They're like,
Mhm.
if you're gonna work for the company, you have to be committed to the company. Because you see a lot in like media where they're saying, "Oh, this person was just given the reins to a company because their parents owned it." My parents were like, "We will not be doing that. If you are in the company, you have to be prepared for what comes with the company. You have to grow up in order to be in the positions that you want to try and be in." And so it took me a little bit. I still did a little bit of work here and there for them, but during that time, it took a little bit for me to get to where I'm at. And so, really, during my college years is where I was really gung ho about doing this for the company.
All right, so let's go back to mom and dad. Now, what were they doing the day before they started this company?
So during that time, I when they first started, I was just getting out of being homeschooled. So my mom was homeschooling me at the time, and she was just rather than going back into some of the old IT work that she did, she during that time was doing real estate, homeschooling me. My dad was still doing a lot of like contracting work for like government and some other people as well. So they were like, okay, my dad, there's about a certain amount of time that he spends with each company to make sure that he gets them to the point that they want to be before moving on to the next. My mom, she really wanted to start her own company as well. And so it was great because my sister is practically the same as my mom, like almost as if she spat her out and she's the same person. So with all of that happening, my sister was like, "Well, I'm pretty much finished, like near the end of my college career. So what am I gonna do beyond here?" She's worked for a few other companies, and that was a whole different experience. But she was like, "No, let's just do our own company." So they talked about it and they decided to do it. And so from then on was kind of how that started, that
All right.
chapter of our lives.
Now, I always tell people about this. I love doing this show because I get to hear stories of people that I did not know
Mhm.
before. But one of the neat things about this show is I know what interstate we're starting on. I can't wait for the first off ramp, and you just offered me the first off ramp. So your mom homeschooled you. I can only assume your mother was an excellent principal and a teacher. What kind of student were you?
Um, let's just think of it this way. Back then, I was still being molded into who I am today. So, out of the three of us, I was definitely the more rambunctious
Mm,
and like troublemaker. So, it took me a minute to grow up. But
okay. And you are the youngest?
yeah, the youngest of three.
All right. So the business, they decide. So, okay, let me give you another opportunity here to speak for your mom and dad, which I know will never come back to haunt you. I always ask when I have a guest on who owns a business with their spouse. I have two
Hmm.
questions, so you get to answer these on behalf of your parents, okay?
uh,
Uh, at the end of the day, what do those two talk about? Because they've been
and
running a business all day long. So after 5 or 5:30, what do they talk about?
oh, well, in terms of them, business isn't the only thing that they do. So they either A, talk about, hey, here's where the kids did great at, here's where we can help them improve. B, they talk about certain business things. C, which is most of the time, they separate from the business and just focus on having time together.
Good.
That way, it's not like their relationship is all based upon the
Mm,
business. And then D, they do a lot of stuff with church as well. And so they are always talking about other things to be doing to help the community.
cool. Now, here's the easy question to the two. Um, between your mom and your dad, with regard to the business, who breaks the tie?
Generally, my mom, because my dad comes in because he's still working with another company as well. So she's kind of like the one who has the biggest say in the whole company. And she lets everyone know that.
Good, good. She's probably earned that too, right?
Mhm.
Yep. All right. So a lot of the things you guys do are cool technology things. I mean, we hear filmmaking, we hear highlight reels, music, game development. What's kind of your wheelhouse if you have one yet?
So for me personally, I focus on primarily the filmmaking and kind of the commercial aspect because I do a lot of work behind the camera. So most of the time when I'm showing up on set or a place to work, I no offense to the other people, but I'm like very focused on like, okay, here's what I need to get done for the day. So I'm already walking around with my camera to be like, here's like the shot I want to get, how I'm gonna get it. So I get very focused on that. But when I'm not on set, most of the time I'm really focusing on a lot of the networking and as well as some of the game development, which is going to be a big thing in filmmaking in the future as well.
And you have produced a, I believe it's a student short film.
I
Mhm.
did 2 short films and I produced 1 feature film.
Let's talk with the student films. How did those come about, and what'd you learn on the first one?
So, the crazy thing is, for the first short film, we kinda did 2 back to back. One was the first weekend and the very second weekend was the next one. Um, that was a learning experience because when you go in and talk to somebody like, "Hey, can I use this location on, for example, a Friday night?" And you because I know you guys are closed at that time, is it possible for us to come in? We'll clean up after ourselves, and what other things can we do to make sure that we can lock this location? And one day they tell you that it's okay. Like, yeah, come on in. You can film in here however long you need. But then the day before you're actually filming, they tell you, "Oh, we didn't know that you were trying to film in this location. Unfortunately, it won't be available to you." So we had to rewrite the whole story. We had to find a new location, and we still had to make sure that all of our actors and actresses could show up and be like, "Hey, we're still comfortable with this new location to work on this film." So it's always the biggest lesson I learned from that one was always making sure to have a backup plan and a backup plan to my backup plan.
What was the topic of the first short film?
So the first one was really focused on kind of explaining the connection that this one girl had with her artwork. And once she felt like she was being taken away from, I guess, her creative outlet, how she would deal with that situation. And in terms of the short film, she didn't handle it very well. But it was that outlet that she needed, especially after the loss of one of her best friends. So when that outlet's taken away, it's kind of like, where does she go from here? And that was kind of the question that was left at the end of that short film.
And did she approach you about this, or was this your idea?
It was my idea
Right?
for that one.
And the goal was to do what with this film once it was produced?
So for that short film, it was primarily just to have another project that's out there and completed. That way, when coming out of like a student film, you're able to say, I've at least worked on one, two, three short films, as opposed to just showcasing, like, hey, I went to school for this, but you don't have anything to showcase what you've learned. Because I found with having tangible evidence of what you've learned in terms of like a short film, it helps a lot more people understand, like, oh, here's where your talents lie. Here are things that are more um, that could be improved on with the next project.
Alright, I sense that creative types like you, songwriters, movie producers, you always have a pen and a sheet of paper next to you because 'cause you'll see something or hear something and you're like, "Ooh, wait, I can work with that." Am I close?
Yeah, I actually have a friend who bought me for one of my birthdays. He bought me a little notebook that's somewhere here. And that notebook just says on the front, trust me, I'm a producer. And with that, he literally was like, yeah, it's just blank pages. You can write whatever ideas come to mind wherever you're at. Because it's a small book I can carry with me anywhere. So that's generally something you'll see on my person at any time.
Now, how often do you go back and look at or follow up on a note you may have written down 2 or 3 weeks ago?
Most of the time, I try and push that off to at least a month or 2,
Mm.
just because when you look at previous things that you've written or things that you've drawn, any form of that's something that's creative and is close to you, I have found for me, it's better the longer that I have away from it, the more I can look at it objectively and be like, okay, here's the weaknesses within this idea, and here's how we can incorporate it into another idea that I've had recently. And most stories that I've written and produced have come about in that way, where it's an amalgamation of an old idea I had when I was, I don't know, 10 with an idea that I've had more recently, kind of bringing together when I was just, I'm imaginative as a child, but now I'm older. I'm also like, I need to make sure that this is monetarily like viable.
The projects you have finished to date,
Mhm.
What how much of a change was it before you started, the way you had everything written and envisioned in your head, and then you start shooting? How big of a change was it from what you thought it was, what you wrote down for it to be, to what it turned out to be?
Most of them are very different. There's only one project that I have worked on. Um, and with that project, that one is pretty much the exact same because I did it with a frequent collaborator of mine from in Maryland. And we went to that particular location and we wrote the story there because we wanted to make sure that it fit within the location that we're trying to work with. So that way we're focused on how does this character move through the space? So that's the only story because it was a horror short film that we were trying to do for a competition. And that was the only time that we ever focused on making one story that has very little changes. Every other story, I would say that they are completely brand new. Like the first draft, I don't even know how much of that is even showing up in the final draft.
The feature film you did,
Mhm.
what was the name of that, and how did that come about?
So for the feature film is Saving Savannah, and that one was actually written by my sister. And for that film, that was kind of close to her because it was about suicide awareness. Because in high school there was a classmate of hers that ended up committing suicide, and so it was kind of a crazy thing because that was the first time that she really had to deal with, the loss of someone that it wasn't due to like some sickness or something. And so she was like, I don't really know how to help that. And the fact that she didn't even know that this was a thing really up to that point, she wanted to help bring some awareness to that. And so that was the first feature film that I helped produce.
And what were the outlets you had for that?
So are you talking about in terms of where it's released?
Yep.
Yeah. So at the moment it's on Vimeo, and I believe that it should be on Amazon by the beginning half of next year.
Oh, nice. Okay, so that's Amazon is looking for creators like yourself?
For Amazon, they are actually pretty open to like the amount of films that go on there. You just have to make sure you have specific guidelines. So if you're like, oh, what kind of camera did you use? And does this have subtitles to help with accessibility and things? Because once you go through all of their hoops, it should be able to get on there pretty easily because they just want as much content as
Yeah.
possible that they don't have to produce. So it's great for them.
Well, and for artists like you to have an outlet like
Mhm.
that, yeah. Somebody watching this show probably has had an idea of, boy, it'd be really nice to be able to do that.
Mhm.
What are their first couple steps they need to have in order, or in place to be able to get this project like that done? What
I would
thoughts?
say there are probably 2 things that you would need if they are trying to, A, make their own film and or produce it, and what they would need to do is first, have a solid foundation of what you want your idea to be. That way, you're not changing it with every second of trying to actually get this filmed. Because if you aren't married to the idea, granted, there's always some wiggle room that you can change and update things for, but if you're not married to the idea, then there's no way you're going to get your audience invested in it. And if you're looking for somebody to film it, there's no way that they will be invested in it if you aren't invested in it and it's your idea. So that's the first thing. So make sure it's an idea that you are 100% like, this is something I can make, something that would be good, and a story that I want to tell. The second thing is find yourself frequent collaborators. So this could be anybody that is even just a hobby filmmaker where they're like, oh yeah, in my free time, we can work on some ideas that you can make into this film. We can work on some techniques that can be done in order for your project to kind of take off. Because there are a lot of things that you can do if you just have even test shots. So if you go on something like a Kickstarter, the more content or information that you have regarding your project, is gonna convince more people that your idea is viable and that they want to support your dreams, which in turn is giving them some level of value.
Can I assume with the technology that is available today, it's probably not as expensive as one might think to do something like that?
It depends on the type of project. So if you are trying to do a drama and it's focused around like someone's house, their job, and maybe the park, that's not nearly as expensive as people would think. However, the problem comes in order to actually pay like your actors and crew livable wages. That's going to be where most of the cost comes. In terms of gear, it's more accessible than ever.
Mhm.
You can have like for one of the brands that I love working with is like Black Magic. And with them, they have a Ursa that's 12K footage, which for everybody editing, 12K is great. For the people who are watching like the movies, they're like, I don't care. As long as it's like in 4K, we're good. I can even deal with like 1080. Most people are like that. But if you're editing a major project, 12K is great to work with. And that I think will set you back. It's still hefty when you're first starting with it being like 6,000 to just for the body. Then you have to buy the lenses and everything with that, which makes filmmaking one of the most expensive hobbies that you hopefully can turn into a career. But with all of that, if you have even an old camcorder that you had, you can use that to kind of help tell your story, especially if you're looking at it from a time period perspective. So there are ways you can use less expensive gear, but you still want to make sure that you're able to give something to your casting or crew, which is where most of the funding will go if you don't have to pay for location.
I would imagine from a cost standpoint, looking for a location that will allow you to work, and then a couple of friends or collaborators
Mhm,
that I don't need to be paid for this. I want to get this done because I have goals
mhm.
like you, probably
Yep,
helps the bottom line, right?
it does. And the one thing I would caution people for is if they're trying to find collaborators, like when they move into the cities, like a different city, and they're saying, "Hey, I'm looking to make a short film. Honestly, I don't have a budget for it, and I'm just trying to look for people to collaborate with." They're gonna have to be prepared when they go on to different like Facebook groups and stuff. More than half the people would tell them to just stop it because they'll be like, you need to pay us all good wages. And that is true. Everybody should be
Mhm.
paid for their work as long as they do good work. However, the problem comes if you're just starting out, you don't have a budget. So you're gonna have to be okay with seeing 99% of the comments saying you're the worst person, like stop trying to not pay people, and find that 1% of the people that are actually like, hey, I'm in the same boat as you. Let's collaborate. And this could be a partnership that they have moving forward. So they're gonna have to be okay with a lot of no's.
Yeah, and that's actually a good life lesson because you're really only looking for the people that will say, "Hey, I'd like to help you on this." Because other
Mhm.
people, if the first thing out of their mouth is telling you you're an idiot, why are you even letting them get into your
Mhm.
head? It's not, they're never going to be a help to you. They didn't want to give you any constructive criticism, say, "Hey, I get where you are. It's going to be tough. Maybe think of it this way." Now, just like they say on Facebook and all these platforms, don't read the comments.
Yep.
Now,
Because
going back to your first tip of be true to your script and know exactly what you want. You gotta have a little bit of thick skin in this business because when you ask people for, advice or you run the script by them, you gotta be prepared for some good yeses and probably some not so nice nos, or maybe I wouldn't have done it that way.
yep. 'Cause that's a common thing. The good thing is, granted, as with everything in the industry, it costs money, but there are people that are like script doctors or people that can just look over your screenplay and they many of them actually have worked on legitimate films that have gone into like Hollywood and stuff. So it's good for them to help you kind of figure out what exactly the execs are looking for in a script. So that part's good. The only thing I would caution people to be aware of is just because it's been written that way before doesn't mean it has to always be written the same way. Because if you are purposely trying to make like there's always a room for art house films where most people are like, I have no idea what the heck this is even about. However, that is a type of film that is still a really big niche that's out there. So if somebody is going for that type of film, a script doctor in most cases probably won't be able to help you much because art house films generally focus on what is the soundscape telling you, what is the visual cues and everything that are being presented in the project, and how does that present this story in a better fashion. So there's a lot of places where it's good to learn the foundations, and once you have mastered that, then you can end up breaking them and changing things to fit your particular script.
Is it harder to write or produce a short film?
I would say produce, because with producing, everything comes down to A, finding people who are willing to help you for cheap, for free, or if you are able to get a good budget, then finding people who are still good to work with. So if somebody has 15 years of experience, but they're terrible to work with, I would prefer to just get a college kid who only knows how to work based upon what their teachers have told them, but they're moldable and they're
Mm.
great to work with. So producing is the hardest part because you have to do a lot of like cutting down, trying to figure out what parts of the film can be done in which locations. And then you have to also look at the script and explain to other people, hey, here's a reason why you should either A, spend your time to watch this film, B, here's why you should help me fund this film, here's why you should be the cast on this film. There's a lot of ex- like educating that the producer has to do for people in order to even give the film a chance to become not just a script, but an actual full-fledged film.
As I was doing some research on you and the company, came across a couple of names, so tell me who they are, okay? Who
Okay.
is JM?
So JM is my brother. So most of the time he will be doing anything to do with the audio, but he does primarily a lot of our music production.
Alright, and where is he in the sibling pecking order?
He's number two,
Alright, how much older is he than you?
about 3 years.
Alright, were you a good little brother to him, or were you the annoying little brother to him?
Depends on who you ask. If you ask me, I am the perfect little brother. To him, he's gonna be like, you're my little brother.
Yeah. I've got one of those too, yep, so, who is Kimberly?
So Kimberly is my mom, our president, and the one who has like the final say in everything.
Give me, your best mom story growing up.
Oh, okay. So there was a time, I won't say specifically where we were at, but we were at an amusement park. And let's say I was supposed to according to my mom, I was supposed to listen to my siblings and go with them because since I was young at the time, I couldn't go to the bathroom by myself. So they were like, make sure you tell your siblings that you need to go to the bathroom. My mom was very clear about it. Whenever she tells a story, I will say, I don't remember this.
Yeah.
But she would be like, make sure you tell your siblings, they'll take you. And let's just say they looked one way, then they looked the other way, and I was gone. So that was an experience that my mom was not very happy about. However, just as you can tell, I'm here. I actually just decided to go and find my dad, and he took me. But that was an experience where my mom, she was like holding me for the rest of the day. And she was like, don't you ever do that again because I scared the mess out of her.
Oh, yeah.
And so she was not happy about that.
Yeah. As a parent, when you look around and all of a sudden what was there is not there, oh, yes. That changes everything. Is it Ariel or Ariel?
It's Ariel.
Okay. Who is she?
She is the eldest, so she's the only sister and our eldest sibling. So
Alright. And you listen to her, you take guidance from her, I'm sure.
in a lot of In a lot of things, I've done a lot better than I used to. And it's really hard because my our parents when we were growing up, they used to call us twins because I have, according to my sister, I have taken all of the bad things of the family and I've amplified it by 10, and she's more of like all the good things. So we're always like butting heads, but a lot of times I do listen to her though.
Okay. And there's 4 of you, so when the 4 of you get together, do 2 of you pair off? I mean, is there somebody you're closer to than another one?
Mm, no,
Okay,
not really.
right. When arguments were happening, were the teams picked quickly of who was siding with who?
Oh yeah, it was all three of them against me.
Because you started it, right?
According to them,
Yeah.
but you know,
Oh, yeah.
who really knows?
And you were the baby, so you got everything, which made your siblings mad because the perception was, "Why does he get everything?" And usually, by the 3rd or 4th kid, your mom's like, "Just give it to him so he'll quit crying."
Yeah, yeah, that was me, and I took full advantage of it.
Yeah, and you should have. You should have. So, people and or businesses come to you guys to create something because they can't or they don't have the technology to do that?
So I would argue that in terms of anything creative, there are a large percentage of people that can at least create the bare bones of what you can do. So if somebody's like, I just need a quick video, you need a quick video, use your phone. Because phones nowadays can do up to 4K. Next generation, they'll probably do like 15K. Like, who knows? They'll just keep adding to it. So if somebody is able to do that, that's fine. They can start there. What they primarily come to us for is, hey, I need custom content that looks professional. So in you're having a activewear that you're trying to put out there, and we'll just say that it's run with Mike, for example, and if that's going to be your brand, then the question is, how am I going to present this to people that they don't think I'm just a random company that's trying to take their money? So I need something that looks professional that actually tells people, here's why I'm justifying the price for my Run with Mike brand. And what we do with that is we make custom videos that make that we would argue are pretty close to being competitive with something of a brand like a Nike or Adidas, because the main goal is, as we said, everybody should at least know one or two people if they themselves, or if they don't know, they know somebody who can make some pretty solid like videos as well. The difference that we add is that we focus on more of the film quality. And so with that film quality, you can see like, oh, this brand looks legit. This is curated content that is 100% professional. You're not going to see the camera like going like this. You're not going to see all of these mismatched colors. You're going to see a cohesive vision that the client of ours has, but they just don't know how to get it out there. And so we kind of help bring clarity to their vision and then project it for other people to see it and
Do
understand.
does the team get to work on many music opportunities?
At the moment, we haven't had a chance to do that since we've been in Wilmington. It was great for us in Maryland because at that time we were actually managing a band, and so we ended up helping produce those music videos as well.
Nice. If your family started a band, who's the lead singer?
My sister, and
Because
that's the
because
no,
she's
that's
she's best?
yeah,
Okay.
and like she's also the one out of all of us that's been like actually trained.
Oh,
Um, so she did a lot of things with like choral. She did a lot of theater, musical theater as well in high school, all of these things. So out of all of us, I would say she should be the lead singer.
okay. And who's the drummer?
If I had rhythm, I would say that would be me.
Okay, fair enough. I like that answer. Also in your, previous line of work, you were an English tutor.
Yes.
I need more details on that.
So with that, that was one of the jobs that I found kind of helping me through college. Because as I said, if I wasn't prepared to like go full on with the company, my parents were like, you're gonna learn these skills that you need in other places, and you're also gonna do it in a way that's like helpful to other people. So I ended up finding an English tutor job. I at first didn't know if it was legit. I would assume it was because I got it through my college site, but I've heard that there were some like fake jobs that were out there. So I was like, I don't know. I'm just gonna show up at this guy's place and I'm gonna be like, hey, can I get an interview? And so from there, I ended up meeting this great guy, Mike Choi. He runs the EM tutors in Ellicott City, Maryland, and through him, I was an English tutor for 6 years. And so I ended up stopping that recently because I was going with the company, but I was like, I don't want to stop tutoring because I've been doing so much, helping a lot of kids get through like their SAT and some other things as well. And so I was like, okay, but I need to stop because with the company going, I couldn't just like juggle both of it. So with an English tutor like position, I ended up doing that from I want to say freshman or sophomore year in college, all the way up to this year. And I just ended up helping students. At first, I was like, oh, it's going to be really easy. It's just helping students that are anywhere from like first to maybe like eighth grade. And then next thing I know, I'm helping students from first to 12th grade. And then after that, I'm helping even like kids that are in college as well. And so I pretty much did the whole gambit where it's like, oh, somebody needs to help, like they need help learning their ABCs to somebody who's preparing for the SATs. And then someone in college is like, I need somebody to look over my essay because if not, I won't be able to graduate. So
So,
I've
yep.
helped the whole gambit.
So you help them with English words of all the languages they were of all the folks you help with their native language, you were teaching them English. What other language are you most fluent in because you learned words from them as they learned words from you?
So most of my students were either they are, if I remember correctly, they would be first generation Korean American like students, and then I had a few that were from Korea. So I learned a lot of like Korean terms. I learned a lot about K-pop that I knew a little bit about, but then I learned a lot more from my students. And then I've also learned that I actually really enjoy a lot of Korean dramas as well
Mm,
because they would just keep sending me recommendations. So I've learned a few words here and there.
good.
And so I think I understand more of it than I speak, but
Mm.
at least I have a little bit of understanding of
Oh, I think it's a wonderful thing to learn about other cultures.
it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I think it's great. Now, you went to University of Maryland, Baltimore County, where
Yes.
you majored in entertainment business. No doubt you are going to be just wildly famous and successful one day. When that day happens, the University of Baltimore County will write what about its former student, Abram Bryan?
If if they wrote anything, oh man, I think it would be from the people that I did my actual degree through. So at UMBC, we had this thing when I first joined, it was called the Interdisciplinary Studies,
Mhm.
but then it transformed into the Individualized Studies program. And I think that since most of the time I was there, I spent most of my time in their offices. So if anybody wrote anything, it would be about our time during the Individualized Studies program. And to give a little bit of background regarding it, with it being the interdisciplinary studies program that became the individualized studies program, the main goal was to have students kind of craft and make their own degree. However, we had to figure out what the disciplines that we were going to take from. So in my case, I took a little bit from like the cinematic arts. I took a little bit from like entrepreneurship and innovation. I took a little bit from economics and to bring it all together for my degree. And with that, their main goal was that's great that you can tell how all of these different disciplines connect with entertainment business. but they were saying that you need to argue why your degree should exist.
Ooh,
And so there was a whole, if I remember correctly, it was a whole semester where they helped us build it. And then we had to give about three presentations to argue why my degree should be like, why I should be able to graduate with this degree, what I've learned from it, how it's going to be useful in setting me up for success in the future. And I think the arguments I had, not arguments, but the discussions I've had with the program, that would probably be what they write the most about because a lot of my time since it was spent there, I was able to learn a lot from all of the different like program directors and stuff. And I was able to connect with a few other students in that same degree path, but they had a very different degree that they were working towards. Um, if I remember correctly, there was even one guy, same program, but mine was entertainment business, and his was focused on how technology can be used to help um, understand how much sound pollution was coming over, like the barriers that are surrounding, like whether they're natural barriers or the barriers that were surrounding like highways and stuff. And
when
I'm
they
like two very different.
okay, good. When they make the major motion picture
Mhm,
about Air Media once it's wildly successful and famous,
mhm,
not that it isn't now, but when we go global, all right? So who plays you in the movie?
mhm. That is a good question. Who let me I'm trying to find somebody who's not mm, I'm gonna have to take a rain check on
Alright,
that one.
alright. Who plays your mom or your dad?
These are questions I never actually thought about because I'm just like,
That's the
I
f
don't know, my mom is my mom.
that's the fun of this show, man.
Ooh,
We'll come back to that, right? We'll
yeah.
come back to that. But, yeah, just you never because sometimes people think, "Oh, if they ever made a movie about" and you're right. Most of us never think of that, but, it's just me, the way I'm wired, asking the question. So, all right, so as we wrap up here, thank you for being on the show. You gave some good tips earlier about, being knowing what your script is, for folks, but if a company's looking for you to get their message out,
Mhm.
there are a lot of different platforms for a lot of different age groups, aren't there?
Yeah.
And do you need to know you kinda need to know who your ideal client is so you know where they're hanging out.
Yes. That is key because some people are just gonna say, as you say, they're gonna be like, I want anybody and everybody. And that doesn't help me present their vision to other people. Because if they tell me anybody or everybody, it doesn't make me think of anybody. So what I recommend for people, if they're going for like a lifestyle brand and they're aiming for single mothers that are like that's gonna give me more information around that. But if they want to give me even more information, like if it's a retro style, so they're trying to get somebody who is maybe in their 50s and above, that helps me know, like, oh, okay, we can use something more like Facebook
Mm,
as opposed to something like TikTok.
yeah.
However, that doesn't mean that there isn't some overlap between like some single mothers that are in the 50s can be in their 50s can be on TikTok as well, but it just helps me narrow down who specifically they're looking for.
Would you rather me come to you with a pretty detailed concept of what I want, or here's what we do, Abram, I don't know what to do with that?
So I so once again, I can work with either of them, but I think I would prefer the second one where they have a basic idea because when people come with here's my main goal, here's everything lined up for what they want to do, I'm like, okay, that's great. But what you just told me requires this budget.
Mm,
Is there a way for us to like bring it a little bit lower to an actual budget that they can work with? But if they have the big budget, we can do it. But a lot of times I like to work with them from the beginning. That way they know here's what exactly you're getting along the way, and this is how much it'll all come out to be. That way, they're not sticker shocked by saying, here's everything I want in this perfect like world where I can have every advertisement I want. And it's just their pocketbooks aren't gonna support that.
I'm sure when you've rolled out what the plan is going to look like and people see the
Mhm.
number on it, they're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I only have $1,200 to spend. What do you mean 18,000? Huh? That's what you asked for.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right, Abram, thank you very much for being on the show. Learned a lot. Don't believe we've had a filmmaker on the show yet. So we've had a couple of people who've written songs, but no filmmaker yet. So always like to have firsts on the show. And for folks listening, if you have an idea of somebody you want, we've been putting Abram's number on the screen here. Give him a call. He'll be able to help you. He'll guide you through whatever you think you need or want to get done. That much I know. So, but Abram, good luck with the family. One day, hope to meet them. Congrats on the success for the business and for your new BNI chapter.
Thank you, Mike.
And yeah, and don't hang up. Yeah, and we'll see everybody next time on Triangle BNI.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com and DeltaForce.net.